Old Man Soul here, and welcome to tonight's flying stream. Hey, gaming nerd, good to see you, dude. Hope you're doing well, man. It's always a pleasure to see you. Well, we had the conclusion of the 4-day racing in Roswell, New Mexico, known as the National Championship Air Races, or NCAR. It used to be known as the Reno Air Races, but now it's the Roswell Air Races. That switch is still kind of new for a lot of people. The announcers are still calling it Reno, sometimes accidentally. And even though they didn't have the sport class and the unlimited class, which is what most people's are looking forward to for that series of racing that happens every September, they still had some good racing. Thankfully, everybody was safe and there's no major issues. And hopefully it'll get a new lease on life in Roswell. Looking forward to its development for next year, as well as the return of hopefully the sport and unlimited class. After doing some real fun spectating for everything that's going on over there, I figured why not we jump back into the cockpit and have some fun flying as well. So let's see what we got here. There we go. When this module was developed for Microsoft Flight Simulator, it was still under Reno, and still was sponsoring it. I'm not sure if I pronounced that right. Let's do a little racing of our own. Figure we'll do some racing here tonight. Maybe a little bit of flying with another aircraft, but then we may switch over to another flying game. Now, I remember when this first released, the performance on this map was pretty rough. Hopefully they fixed it by then. I did a little test run yesterday. Reduced my graphic fidelity on it, so should be a bit better. But yeah, this is Old Stead Airfield. They used to have racing here since, I want to say it was 1965, up in the Reno Mountains. It's quite shocking to see the difference between the environment here with the racing and then how it was in Roswell. In Roswell, there's like nothing out there. It's all flat, which is great for the pilots, you know. If they have to make an emergency landing, you know, there's so much area out there is flat, they could probably just like land it anywhere if they need to, except for the jets. Jets still have to land at, you know, in paved areas. It's still a little too rough for them. Let's see if anybody's actually flying on here. So in this game, we have 4 classes. There's more classes for the actual air races, But for this game, unfortunately, there's only 4. They have the biplane. Sure, typically, I believe they're usually pits. You got the T6 trainer class. And then up until I believe it was like close to the 2010s, like the announcer was saying. Or actually, it might have been earlier than that. It's past the 2000s, I think. I don't want to interrupt the announcer. So, we have the Unlimiteds here. The Unlimiteds are basically, at one point in time, they were the fastest. And they were the biggest draw. Because you can see here, they're all repurposed old World War II planes that managed to survive the war. And, you know, they're not in service anymore. They're not, you know, the battlefield has changed. They're no longer needed. So what do you do with a bunch of aircraft that aren't being used by the military? Well, there's a number of things you could do to them. One of them was sell them off to the civilian market. So a lot of enthusiasts went and purchased an old piece of history, kept them running, kept them flying. And like many things in human history, you got people that have real fast things. They want to see who's the fastest. One of those became the Reno Air Races. That's what these are here. They were the fastest until the legalization of privately owned jets, Soviet-made, that civilians can own, became their own class, the jet class. Now these guys are the fastest. And even though the Unlimiteds weren't there today, which is always unfortunate, that's always going to be the biggest draw. I felt these guys were still pretty cool to watch, just from how big the track is and how fast these guys are going. Although, funny enough, because of the selection of aircraft in Microsoft Flight Simulator, the jet class here is a little misleading. They're only showing L-39s here. But the aircraft that won today was actually an L-29, which I think are called Vampires. And I think these were the Albatross. Still, pretty cool aircraft. And yeah, let's see who's flying. I highly doubt anybody's flying this. Alright, yeah, we'll pick this one. I'm honestly gonna be shocked if we find anybody in the lobby. That's one of the big gripes I have with this game. Or at least, I should say this module, technically. It needed CPU bots, you know. To try and help fill in the void if there wasn't enough people to get a race compiled. Like, I remember it being hard enough finding people back then. It was when this was still fairly new. Now it's like 4 years after the fact, and everyone's moved on to the newer simulator, which is part of the reason why I haven't bought the new simulator, because it still has a lot of problems that they never quite ironed out from this version, with a higher price tag. And no National Championship Air Racing, which is a big no-no for me, you know. It's like, you want me to spend even more resources, more hard drive space for that game when it doesn't even feature this? You know what? I think I'm good for the moment. I'll wait. Yeah. Very unfortunate. Let's see if anybody is flying the Unlimiteds. I like that paint scheme. I think some of these are actual, like the actual aircraft, or I should say the racing teams that participate in these. I don't know about this one. Like if they had Strega or Voodoo, I'd pick one of those. And they go back. Hey, okay, there's a Voodoo right there, in the complete white. Oh, and there's Strega right next to it. Bunny. Spam Cam. Miss America, I remember that one. Hey, Small Toad, good to see you. Bakushin, yep. Yep, we're going to get into some more horse racing, except this time it's going to be horse racing in the skies. As you can see, we have a bunch of Mustangs here. And we're going to see, hopefully, there'll be someone out there willing to race. So let's see here. We got the Strega, we got the Voodoo. I'll go for the Voodoo. Piloted by Steve Hinton. In fact, actually, let's see. Where's she at? I'm gonna make sure she's here. It would make sense, right? There she is. Hey, there we go. Alright, Mayano, you sit in the back seat. Yeah, see, there we go. Now everything's good. Wasn't he the one that crashed? No, Steve Hinton and Steven Hinton is a father-son pilot duo that owns the Plains of Fame Museum down in gosh dang it, of course. They own the Plains of Fame Museum down in, I won't say it's Chino, California. And nowadays, I believe the father actually mostly does like pace rate. Like they're the pace plane, so they'll fly in front of like the fastest groups to lead them into the chute where they go into the race. You won't see that here though. You know, they just automatically assume everybody starts. But his son, up until recently, his son raced the Strega, and then the owner of Strega was having issues of ownership with Strega. I think it was going through a divorce or something, and his wife was possibly gonna like gain ownership of it. So it was kind of a mess, if I remember things correctly. So he ended up racing for Voodoo, the competitor. And then I think he still would technically race it. And he was the fastest guy in the Mustangs for the unlimited class. Although I want to say it was 2019, which was one of the most exciting races ever recorded. He actually got beat by an ex-Navy fighter pilot, um, who got into, or at least got into doing this racing, and I think he did it with Strega. So it was wild seeing like him battle his old plane and actually lose to an ex-fighter pilot. Yeah, and funny enough, if you've ever watched the documentary film called Speed and Angels, the guy in there, Jay, aka Face Shot, that's the guy. That's the guy that actually won that year for the Unlimiteds. It's kind of wild. You know, he used to fly like he was the last cruise for the F-14 before it got decommissioned, and they got transitioned over to the FA-18. But if we're talking about that devastating crash that, you know, unfortunately happened back in, I think it was 2008 or 2009. I was actually supposed to go to that, and yeah, I was going to go on Saturday or Sunday. I don't remember which day, but that crash happened the day before. It was horrifying. That was actually the it was the Galloping Ghost. And while, you know, this air sport, you know, it's dangerous like any other, you know, any other racing sport where the idea is to go fast. You know, danger is always associated with every single type of motorsport. Although nowadays those motorsports are way safer due to technology and stuff. You can't quite do that with air racing, right? It's always going to be dangerous. Anything that goes up in the sky at that speed is always be dangerous. But the pilots knew it, the people knew it, right? And so it was just kind of an accepted risk, like many other glory seekers from other motorsports. There have been deaths at Reno, but it would always be the pilots, and they would always be out in the field, right? This particular case is the one unfortunate case where it's damn near the worst case scenario. I say damn near because even though it was really, really bad what happened, it could have been even worse. The precious, what was it? Not precious metals. Galloping Ghost. His airframe, when going into one of the turns, I want to say there was a structural break. I think it was his elevator, to where he no longer can control the pitch of the aircraft. The aircraft pitched up really hard. I believe he blacked out, you know, so he was unconscious at that time. And unfortunately, it just kind of fell like a lawn dart. And you see those, you see the audience kind of in the front there. They have like ground floor seats. That's where it hit. Really horrible. I think, what, 10 plus people were killed. About like what, 90 to 100 people were sent to the hospital. It was horrifying. You know, it was the first accident like that I ever happened. And, you know, all the things that kind of happened, you know, afterwards for Reno was pretty rough. You know, insurance got really ridiculous. Things got way more expensive. A lot more rules. A lot more restrictions. It was almost the death of the Reno Air Races. So, oh yeah, no, the pilot died instantaneously. Like, you know, you don't, like, it disintegrated the aircraft when it went in. So, yeah, it was insane. Thankfully, it didn't go into the stands, because that would have been even worse. But, you know, it was still a tragedy enough on its own, and it almost killed the event. You know, now it would go on for another several years, but a number of factors were really kind of waning the audience getting involved. You know, rising costs, older generations slowly dying out, you know, that really loved and supported the sport. Newer generations of people weren't quite into it like a lot of other motorsports are experiencing. The newer generation of the youth aren't quite as into vehicle racing and stuff like that. Mostly because a lot of them don't own vehicles nowadays. You know, given that with the cost, the Unlimiteds here, you know, the old Warbirds, you know, they were raced for glory back then. It was barely for money. They barely get money, and even when they do win for these things. You know, their machines are getting older. It's becoming way more expensive to fix and maintain them. And a lot of them were just starting to retire. Because it made more sense to put these up in a museum where you can get, or sell it to a private buyer where they can get millions off of these things. Or crash it, possibly, into the ground, you know, in a chase for glory. And it slowly waned. It didn't kill it, though. Like, it was still going. What killed it was the development. As you can see from the screenshot here, that's actually not too far off what happened. So originally, Stead Airfield here, there's nothing around there. You'd have to drive out there in a car, you know, on these lonely roads. Now, there's schools, there's housings everywhere, you know. It's, you can see development go just about right up to the flight line. And, yeah, once... You know, I've been there back when the development wasn't there. And then for the last year, when they had it in Reno, back in 2023, I went to that one, you know, with some of my family and brought a buddy up there who lived in the area. Never been there before, you know. And once I looked around and saw the development going right up to the airport, I'm like, yeah, we can't have this here anymore. This is too much of a risk now. It wasn't when there was nothing out there, right? But now it is. And unfortunately, they didn't even get to conclude the racing on Sunday for that last race up in Reno because two T6 pilots accidentally crashed their aircraft into each other. Not even racing. When they were on the, I think it was the down leg, coming in to land after the race was done. I guess they didn't see each other or something. There was something happened, but they crashed. Thankfully, no one else was involved, but... Yeah, they decided to cancel it for the rest of that day, unfortunately, so we never got to watch the final Unlimited race, and so... Yeah, that was like, yeah, we can't have this here anymore. Thankfully, a couple years afterwards, after some searching, Roswell was willing to take in the event and start fixing up their airport to meet the criteria needed for such an event, and they just had their first successful weekend. This week, so. Hey, Noel, good to see you. Hope you're doing well. Yeah, we are in Flight Simulator, Microsoft Flight Simulator 2020. So that's actually how I'm racing right now. And yeah, you are correct. That for the racing, that is the racing event we are talking about. Yeah, there was a mechanical failure with, like, the trim tabs breaking, result in fatal spin. I believe that involved the elevator. I want to say it was the elevator, because he didn't have control. And it pitched up. And it got him to black out, you know. And it was just as fate would have it, it would, you know, it would do what it did. Thankfully, it didn't veer off farther to where it could have hurt more people, but yeah, it's rough. Which is surprisingly enough, that's actually not the worst fatal accident to happen in motorsport racing. I believe that still happened. That's still claimed by Formula One. When an old F1 car jumped into a crowded spectator grandstands in France back in, I think it was the 50s. I think like 100 people died or something around there, which is pretty horrible. But yeah, we're trying to do some racing right now, but unfortunately there's nobody here racing. I don't know if you own the Reno Air Races stuff, Noel, but if you do, feel free to join me. Let's see, just to keep the show going, we're gonna do some time trials here. I really wish this had, you know, CPU bots we could just throw in to kind of populate the race. We gonna do the silly, yeah. Alright, well, hold on, actually, let's practice, actually. Let's practice with the slower aircraft. You don't? Aw, dang. Yeah, so we're gonna practice with the slower aircraft, and then we're gonna transition into the Mustangs. Alright. We got the throttle, firewall. So as you can see here, we're flying a course. This is not like the...
Your line's too high. Get back down to race altitude.
Shit. So you see, this is a pylon race, but it's not like what you would expect from... It's not what you would expect from, like, say, the Red Bull races back when they were doing those. I don't think they do those anymore. Like, this is actual competitive oval racing. And there's some rules to it, right? Yeah, you literally have, like, 6 aircraft flying against each other at various, at various course lengths, depending on the class. So, like, the T6, I think they run, like, close to a 3-mile track, I think. At Reno, the Unlimiteds and the Jet class used to run an 8-mile class, or an 8-mile track. Yeah, I mean, they were kind of like ovals. Some of them were ovals. One of them, in particular, the Stoll tail draggers. So basically, like oh, what are they called? Are they the Cubs?
You just finished your first lap.
So they would actually start from the ground, take off, try and fly as fast as they can without flying too fast, because they would have to land back on the ground, do an about face, and then go back the other way. Those are pretty wild to watch. But yeah, as you can see, there's pylons here that we have to follow. We are not allowed to cut in at all. If you cut in at all on the inside of the pylons, you are automatically disqualified. No questions asked. There's also a ceiling height. You're not allowed to go above a certain amount of feet. I don't remember if it's 100 feet or 300 feet. The rules had changed since that horrible crash happened. So I'm not exactly sure when that was. But as you can see, this is a bit easier of a track to fly with these slower planes. Once we get into the Mustangs, this is going to become a lot more challenging. Most aircraft, when they start off, they all start off with a pace plane flying together around the track once to kind of get everybody, try and get everybody on the same you know, page before they would let them through. However, with the fastest groups, the Unlimiteds and the Jet class, they would actually fly them out to do a bunch of checks beforehand. and then they would fly them over the crowds, where they would come down on the chute, which is a good angle for them to start on the first turn. They can't do it here because as you can see, at Stead Airfield, you're actually kind of closer up in the mountains. There's a lot of hills everywhere, and so it would make it difficult for them to do that like all the other classes do because of how fast they are. So they would have to do a very special start. But it was always cool looking when they did it. I'd be down with this if they did some more complex tracks. I mean, it's a, you know, what are you expecting? You expect them to run like a Formula One track?
Yeah.
You know, like an F1 style race? This isn't, you know, this is already quite, like, crazy as it is. You know, the fact that this is allowed anywhere in the world is insane. You know, I don't think we want to also ask these pilots to basically fly Diddy Kong racing courses. Yes, I do. Oh, gee, okay. It's not exactly real aircraft, but I do have jet-borne racing. What is that? I'll have to look into that. I do have a jet racing game that's super fun. It's like very arcadey, right? But it's super fun. I don't know if you have it. I'll have to check to see if you have it. I'd definitely down. I'd be down for flying that. That thing is so fun. It's basically, you know, it's like a modern day version of Diddy Kong Racing. What? Oh, what do you mean what? Oh, you mean Diddy? Are you talking about Diddy Kong Racing? It was Rare's Nintendo 64 racing game compared to Mario Kart. So with Diddy Kong Racing, you have, you know, Diddy Kong, and there's 3 different types of racing you can do in that game. You can either do kart racing, flying racing, or boat racing, or not boat racing, like hoverboat racing. Yeah. Is it a VR-oriented flight game? No. You can. It may be VR capable, but it's not required. I can show it like after we do some flying here in Microsoft Flight Simulator. I can show you what it's like. But yeah, as you can, unfortunately, as you can see, I'm only doing time trials against my Ghost, because nobody plays this. On Microsoft Flight Simulator X, they had a racing event for Reno, so they had, but it was only the Unlimiteds with the Mustangs. But even then, that one had, you know, CPU bots you could race against. So that way there was some form of competition instead of you just flying in a circle, you know? Yeah, I'm waiting on a good deal for that one as well, but the problem is that, you know, how much space is that going to require me to grab? It, you know, it doesn't even have this in there. Like, if they had the National Championship Air Racing module, like, integrated with 2024, then I would definitely look forward to buying it. But it's not in there, so I'm like, man, I spent all this money for all these aircraft to race in, and I don't even think it's available in the 2024 version. And 2024 isn't exactly a super amazing updated version. It kind of has a lot of same problems this game had. So it's like, why do I want to spend money towards it? Yeah, there's a lot of mixed things with 2024, and I don't think they ever fix it. It's still annoying that they did the downloader thing the way they did. Yeah, it would be cool if those add-ons were compatible with 2024. Then I wouldn't have a problem buying it, you know? Alright, I am turning way too late. There we go. Yeah, my ghost is now ahead of me, unfortunately. I kind of screwed up that. Oh, there he is right there. Ah, I lost. I lost to my own race. Wait, what's happening with what's happening with the propeller? Yeah, my problem was I wasn't concentrating on the racing, I was just talking. And so I went way too wide on that last turn and I lost to my ghost. Yeah, if Myona had a good time, then we had a good time.
Welcome to Reno Airport, home of the Reno Air Races since 1966.
There you go. Let's jump on the voodoo here. I'm thinking of doing a YouTube video explaining what the Reno Air Races or the Reno/Roswell Air Races is. Because so many people sleep on this event. Alright. Oh. Okay. Alright. There's my ghost. Oh, jeez. Okay. Alright. Oh. Oh, God. Okay. Wow.
Watch your altitude.
No, I'm too high. Okay. Oh, God. Nope, they didn't fix this at all. Oh, God. The performance is still awful. Jeez. Oh, God. No, I don't like it. I don't like it. No, this is bad. Jeez, this is bad. Yeah. Yeah, we're not. We're not. Yeah, no. I'm just gonna end the event. This is awful. It should not be this bad. Oh my God. Yeah. No. That was terrible. Yep, they never fixed it. They never fixed it. You're better off just flying. You're better off flying this in Microsoft Flight Simulator X. The performance was better, right?